You are alone. A soldier sent on a mission for which you are unlikely to return. All you have to keep you company is the robotic voice that reads off your most recent orders from command. While your enemies continue to dig deeper in the Marianas Trench looking for some salvation, you have one goal: to kill them and end the war. During that opening monologue thing, you might have noticed something. This game looks and sounds a lot like Iron Lung. Well, it does, because this game was directly inspired by it. It even says so in this email thing the devs sent me. Also, full disclosure, I got this game for free. This isn't sponsored or anything, the devs just sent me a key unprompted, and after playing the game a bit, I decided it was worth a video. The game is directly inspired by Iron Lung. The gameplay is recognizable, but also a bit of a departure from the wired Iron Lung-like genre. Like, I know it's a small genre. You have Iron Lung, and then you have games like Voyager 19. It's kind of a lot like how Doom was in the 90s. Doom was this massive breakout game, and then everyone started making Doom-likes or Doom clones. Eventually they stopped being called that, but I feel the same thing's happening right now. Iron Lung was a breakout success, and then with games like Voyager 19, or Their Navy is Their Doom, it feels like we're in the Iron Lung clone stage, and then in a few years it will kind of turn into its own genre. One of the ways this game separates itself from the inspiration is that it's actually much more involved in a gameplay department. You are stationary, you can't walk around your respective sub, but within the sub there's a lot more to do. For example, movement is different. Both games share the same base objective of navigating through a maze-like map to get to the objective. In Iron Lung, the movement is simple. You can go forwards and backwards with a bit of acceleration and deceleration, but nothing crazy. Most of the challenge of the movement isn't from moving itself, but figuring out where you are on the map given just the coordinates. Their Navy is Their Doom takes a significantly more involved approach. Not only is there acceleration and deceleration, but there also is a gear shift with different levels of speed. Navigating the mazes of Their Navy is Their Doom can be a bit more difficult than Iron Lung because you actually have to take things like acceleration into mind when moving. If I need to stop my sub, I actually need to decelerate because my momentum. I can't just stop on a dime or take my foot off the gas. This is partially alleviated by the fact that the maze isn't surrounded by insta-kill walls, but actually more of a soft kill barrier. If you go outside the highlighted portion of the map, you'll go into a danger zone, and after a few seconds you'll get killed. If you played Forge and Halo Reach, you know the difference. It's the difference between a soft kill barrier and a kill ball. One will kill you instantly, the other will give you 10 seconds. Both will suck if a guy puts it on top of your respawn point. The game's more in-depth movement and soft kill barriers actually work really well when you take into account the last part of Their Navy is Their Doom's gameplay, the fact that it has actual combat. In a radical departure from Iron Lung and Voyager 19, you are no longer just a passive observer. You are given weapons and the means to destroy your enemies should they get in your way. You are the fist of the Federation, sent down to enact righteous justice on the Republic fleet. The combat in this game is quite simple, but also surprisingly engaging. It's as simple as shooting a missile at a guy and they die. You can store one missile at a time, and once you need a new one, you just harness the power of a dying star to create it. Okay, it's probably not a dying star, but it looks really cool when you charge up the missile reactor thing. Once you charge up a missile, it's stored there until you're ready to use it. It can be shot at any time, anywhere, full 360 degrees around your sub. The actual direction you shoot the missile, though, is determined by two things: the orientation of your sub, and the direction you aim using the crank on the side. Against stationary targets or non-responsive targets, the combat is quite simple and kind of boring almost. You aim your missile, you shoot, it destroys the enemy in one hit. The only danger you're really in is if you're like me and leave your sub on 4th gear and go barreling into the dark zone and die immediately. Later on, the combat gets much more engaging though. You will go against enemies that can both move and shoot back. Revolutionary, I know. You and every enemy in the game all have one hit point. So, just like you can kill any enemy with one shot, they can kill you with one shot. Like I said earlier, due to how the sub moves in this game, if you get distracted, you can easily barrel on into the danger zone and die. So this is where the real interesting parts of the combat come in. You can either move fast and dodge enemy missiles but risk drifting into the danger zone, or move slow and risk getting hit. On top of that, moving fast makes aiming harder since you have to lead your shots, while of course moving slowly makes it much easier to aim. In addition to all this, your ship does have a shield. Your shield can block torpedoes but has a very limited power supply. It's more of a reactionary shield than a constant one. Think a parry shield in Dark Souls. Put it up in emergencies when you can't dodge an enemy torpedo. Otherwise, I recommend keeping it down. The gameplay actually can be quite fun when you use all the systems properly. The problem is that you can just kinda choose not to if you use the shield. Instead of having to do the whole bob and weave dodging thing and worrying about aiming, you can just load up a missile and bum rush an enemy. Put up the shield once they shoot, and then shoot them back. Rinse and repeat. It invalidates everything I've said previously about the combat. It's unfortunate, but not a deal breaker considering the combat isn't the main draw of the game. It's more of a fun twist on the formula it is building off of. Overall, I think the combat is simple, somewhat unremarkable, but quite fun in practice. The combat itself is an important development that helps differentiate this game from other Iron Lung clones, and actually helps slowly establish this as its own genre. With the introduction of more in-depth movement and combat mechanics, the game also breaks free from the genre's horror roots. It certainly has some spooks and intense moments, but the game is decidedly less scary than other games in the genre are trying to be. The game is not devoid of scariness, but instead uses what few scares it has to help deliver the story. From this point forward, I'm going to discuss spoilers for the game, so if you intend to play it at any point, I suggest tuning out now. In the near future, the world is plunged into war between two superpowers, the Federation and the Republic. The land war is over, with a Federation victory. The remnants of the Republic leadership and its navy have taken to the Marianas Trench and are now drilling down. It's the job of the main character, Kenji Nagai, to go down in a new advanced sub and put an end to the Republic once and for all. That's the setup for the game. Pretty simple, but it gets the job done. And it's the setup for why you are piloting a sub through underwater mazes shooting enemies. As the game progresses, you actually go deeper and deeper underground. The first level takes place 12,000 meters deep, which is already deeper than Challenger's Deep, the deepest place in the ocean. By the end of the game, you have gone down to 32,000 meters, well below Challenger's Deep, and potentially reaching into the upper mantle. I have no idea what the Republic could possibly be hoping to accomplish by drilling down deep underwater. But considering the bad ending of the game, which involves an eldritch horror taking over your ship, I can safely assume that they were either hoping to use the eldritch horror to win the war, or were just hoping to release it in kind of a mutually assured destruction way. If they didn't already know about the eldritch entity, then it just seems like they're dwarves and they dug too greedily and too deeply. Now, overall, the story is quite simple, and as I said before, it gets the job done. But there's one part that does kind of irk me. It's the use of cryosleep. You're in this advanced sub, and between missions you go into cryosleep until you reach the next location. That's fine, except for the fact it makes no sense. The game, in each area, shows you the date. So some missions take place weeks or even months apart. And all you're doing is going down a few kilometers each level. Either the sub took several months to descend a few more kilometers, or you are patiently waiting for the Republic to get done drilling before you descend further. I guess a third option would be that you're also drilling, but that seems weird because you're chasing after their whole navy, so I feel like there would be a hole big enough for you to follow them through. The game has several endings, and one of them has a 4-year time skip between the first level and the last level. I don't know how slow your sub has to be for descending down like 15 kilometers to take 4 years. The whole cryosleep thing just feels like a weird afterthought. I don't really know why it's in the game. Other than that though, overall I quite like the game. I've actually played it through multiple times. Partially because it's very short and has multiple endings, but also because the devs have been really good about releasing a constant stream of quality of life patches. I meant to release this review in early October, but the devs kept releasing patches to fix common quality of life complaints. And so every time I felt like I was getting done, the devs would fix something I complained about, and then I'd have to retool part of the video. And then I felt like I should replay the game again just to get an idea for what they fixed, and you get the idea. Once again, not sponsored at all. I just actually enjoyed this game and thought it was worth making a video about. And as kind of a side note, it's really weird that my Iron Lung video got as big as it did. When I made that, it was never meant to be anything. The script was something I wrote during COVID to entertain myself, to have something to do. And then it sat around for 2 years, and I ended up recording the video based around the script because I just found it lying around. The fact it has almost 2 million views at this point, should it be a thing? That video isn't perfect. Have you seen the captions in it? But it's just interesting that my video got so big that I'm now like a voice in the wider Iron Lung community, big enough that I get unprompted games from devs that claim their game was inspired by it. I don't know. It feels weird to have something go viral, and I personally don't feel deserving. I am incredibly thankful that at this point I have, I think, 18,000 people subscribed to my channel. Like, that's crazy. Now, if you're at this point, thank you. Seriously. It means a lot that people watch my things. Even if my thing doesn't get 2 million views, even if it gets like 900 views, the fact anyone watches anything I make is astounding. If you do think this video was a soulless shill for this game, let me know in the comments. Other than that, I will see you guys in a little bit. I have another video coming up, and it's gonna be about that time KFC gaslit an entire country. いろいろ使えて楽しいよ。